So we thought that in addition to these other scripted videos that Rebecca, Hugh, and I should do one spontaneous video just because she happens to find herself this very special time and place when a lot of exciting things are happening with the course and the future of the course. So, Rebecca, we could talk about how you seem to find yourself in the right place at the right time now, and what you actually applied for is the thing that I offered before we taught the future to the whole first-year medical school class. You, in a sort of accidental way, discovered this promotional piece for the elective. So it's been years since I even thought about it, and actually the last time that I encountered the medical student elective text, I found that the people in charge of that part of the website didn't know how to edit the existing document. So I asked for changes that they never made. So all those 4 years, the thing was sitting there with obvious flaws. And yet, somehow, you didn't really see that. You saw the overarching intent of what it was written for and, responded to that. It was just wonderful. It was sort of like a Rosetta Stone, your, ability to see something in that dated document from four to 6 years ago that no other medical student saw, and to actually react to it, and it will probably benefit everybody, because now I brought the whole thing up to date. It's absolutely current and something everybody else had ignored but had meaning for you. And now all these things are happening to make the course higher profile just at exactly the time that you found out about it. So how does that feel?
Well, it's actually very interesting. I've had a lot of people in my past who've mentored me and have taken a keen interest in maybe my interest and also my unique set of skills and my background and experience. So, your excitement made me excited, and here we are, Dr. Solez. We're talking about all the great things we can do together collaboratively, whether it's in the field of technology advancement or in the field of medicine, pathology in particular. Previously, I've actually only had so much experience with pathology because, it's one of those medical specialties that is not really known about when you first think about a doctor, right? Mm-hmm. But the more I think about it, and, you made me get some gears turning, and I'm thinking pathologists and people in the background who make things happen are very essential to society's future, medicine, and I guess further advancements to mankind. So I think this is a really good place for anybody to start. And I'm happy to have found you, and I think, there's a lot of things we could do.
So one other thing that we're looking for is finding someone whose career trajectory is kind of in alignment with long-range interest in the course. So they could, as I get older and older, I could take over certain aspects and sustain the course longer than I would be able to personally. Yeah. So this coming summer, it's maybe a bit comical to talk about it that way, but it's your last free time ever, right? Because after that, you're sort of locked into all these doctor things that you have to do. You don't really have an entire free summer. Mm-hmm. So I don't think you're the only candidate for that, but maybe at the moment you're the most likely candidate, and it's kind of exciting to think about that as a role. So maybe we could plan something in the summer of 2020 that would be world-changing, and it would be really high impact, and it's fun to think about at least something where we really feel that time is well spent, So I think that would be really cool. What were your thoughts about the other students who've been working with me. It's kind of an extension of me, I guess, that they reflect something about me, right? They have been working with me for some time, and so they sort of give you some idea of the influence that I've had. And
I was very happy to see that everybody has a interesting background and very, very different from what you would expect somebody working with yourself would be, and I think that's a great thing, right?
How did they seem? Were they what you expected? Were there a lot of surprises there? Did you expect the group of students to be less diverse, more diverse? Did you have any expectations of?
Well, really, I actually had no real expectations coming in because I've been surprised so many times before. It's better to come in with like an open mind and just kind of feeling it as it comes along. We have students who have an interest in classics. We have a student who's interested in cell biology. We have business students, and myself with a background in engineering. I think you have like a lot of very unique perspectives coming into one.
Right.
And it's a very multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary field. And I think that brings a very fascinating representation of how the common person can come together and explore these ideas.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing that I thought about is that it's not predictable who would find that a really natural role, but I think ultimately somebody will find it natural, for instance, to pick up the running of the course and to help with that, to pick up the YouTube channel and start managing that, the Facebook page, the LinkedIn page. It might be quite a lot of fun for the right person to be able to carry those things on, but you wouldn't want to assign it to somebody whose career was sort of going that way. That would take them into a whole area that just wouldn't be a good fit with what they're trying to do in life generally.
So how do you see, what is your vision for myself and all the other students? I mean, for example, everybody comes from a very unique background, and this is not very traditionally representative of a set of pre-medical students or students doing research.
So I don't think it should be a unique assignment that you were the only possible option, but it's kind of nice to think that you're the most likely option at the moment, and you've got all these other students to talk to, and every September there are new students approaching me because of the Reddit posts about what an interesting course it is. So students who have just come to the U of A come to see me about the course. Interestingly, as I've told you before, the student like that I got along with the best, Rana Afshar, she never took the course, but she had the greatest time with us. We kept, inviting her back to parties and that sort of thing. So sometimes getting along with another person, doesn't necessarily mean that the course is going to fit into their plan for, university. But I think if we have enough people involved, and if they all know each other, then it will be a wonderful kind of self-organizing thing, and if it becomes a burden for one person, they could quite easily find somebody else who has always seemed interested and, who could maybe take over that function. Like if you think of the YouTube, there's a lot of background statistics and analytics, YouTube analytics that you can do. And some people would find that fascinating, some people would find it completely boring. And over time, you would sort of get a feeling for who was into that and who wasn't. And somebody who really enjoyed the analytics part might really like to edit that site, to be the main person managing the YouTube site. And what about social media in general and the future of medicine? Well, I think all one can say is it will play a larger part in the future than it has in the past. So it's not a bad thing to be associated with. So the youngest student who's ever worked with me, he's I guess 16 now, he was 15 when he worked with me. He said the experience of working with me, the most important thing about it is how surprising it is. And he wanted to learn from me how to be as surprising as I am. Yeah, so that's also kind of key thing on human interaction. A lot of people think that when they encounter somebody like me that there's going to be this distance, you know. That's I think what Jesse Lee found so surprising about me. This expectation that I'm so different from you, and I probably think I'm so much more important than you, that I'm always watching my watch when you're talking and stuff like that. But actually I don't feel like that at all. I've benefited a great deal from my interaction with young people the past 47 years, so I'm sort of charmed by what you're saying. I'm not bored by it. I'm not thinking I'm way more important than she is, and it's a complete waste of my time to be spent. No, I feel kind of honored by the interaction, and I like to think that it's really completely the opposite. So have you found some aspects of interacting with me, surprising? Or
that's a very good question, Dr. Solez. In a way, yes, because I feel like, myself growing up and maturing, I've always been the more spontaneous type of person, and I'm pretty random when it comes to things, but I think you have me beat.
Yes,
so
probably.
That's something that's very surprising, because I already occupy this high tier of spontaneity, and you are above me, which is good. It's very refreshing.
Yeah. Yes. Many of the young people that I'm interacting with at any one period of time, they're going to become massively famous later. It just hasn't happened yet. So the massive celebrity will come later on, and then they'll be surrounded by this impenetrable security, and nobody will be able to contact them. So it's just such an honor to be able to actually interact with you now, because you haven't been discovered yet. Once you are, it'll be like impossible to. So, is that true of every young person? No, but if I assume it is, that harms nobody, It's a good assumption for me and for them, and it's nice that they think that I think that could happen to them, So, yeah. And what about accomplishing important things without being a celebrity kind of person? Well, I think about that all the time, because like Shauna Pandya, she denies being a celebrity in any way, but in many ways you might define it. She is. She talks to large audiences and so on, and she's, promoted. She's won Woman of the Year from many different organizations and stuff like that, So I was really so happy to receive your email. It was really, as they say, a moment. And what was kind of fun about it is when you wrote that email, probably seemed like something quite mundane to you, and not that it would be such a big deal to me. But it's just that the history of our teaching futurism to the first year medical school class have been a very interesting history. And so, well, a lot of people think that the younger you are, the less predictable your activities are. But in my house, it's always been clear that I am the least predictable person, and I've always been. And like I can sleep at will, so I can be working at times of the night when nobody else is, and yet be completely rested the next day, and stuff like that. So that's also surprising, and it sometimes means, like when you happen to be up in the middle of the night, you almost never are, but you are that night, and you email me, and I reply right back, and you say, wow, because...
I did notice that. It's I feel like it's very interesting because, the average person tends to be more calculating, and they have these ideas that kind of ruminate around in their minds, and they kind of put some filter out.
Right.
But it's also very interesting to hear about all these ideas you have spontaneously, which is good if you want to put big ideas out there and you want to get people thinking and discussions going. You need to have that kind of spontaneity, and you need to have that kind of creativity, and not caring what other people think, and working, I guess, with the beat of your own drum, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is good. I think it's a wonderful thing.
So in a physician's life, there are all sorts of theories about what activities are important and should be prioritized. But the nice thing about medicine is you can make your own rules about that, right? You can sort of decide what you want to prioritize, and so that's kind of how it works. Like, there are many exciting things that we seem to be uniquely thinking about and nobody else is. So people who are thinking about digital personas are thinking about it entirely for, celebrities talking to large audiences in stadiums, right? So how can they have a more successful career where on a certain night they can talk in 4 different stadiums rather than 1, right? Yeah, that's completely different from what the average person needs. And the market is relatively small. The number of people speaking to stadium-sized audiences is limited, right? But the number of people who need to be able to do more than one thing at a time is almost the whole human race. So coming up on 8 billion people, right? So that's really a much more exciting challenge. How can you make this digital persona thing work for the average person, not for the person speaking to thousands of people in stadiums? That's not really our personal concern. But there will be a way to do that, to be able to have numerous instances of yourself and go and experience many different things at the same time. And it's exciting to think that we might be in the forefront of figuring out how that opportunity could be there for ordinary people, not just, celebrities, but people like you and me. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, I've always hoped for the future as I was, when I was younger. I'm like joking to everybody, well, I just wish by the time that I retire, someone out there would have made a virtual reality for me to upload myself into, so I can get all the experiences even though I'm limited by my physical self.
Yeah.
Which is, I think we're thinking about along the same lines, and this should be something that I think is very, very feasible in the next few decades or so.
Sure.
Yeah.
And reversal of aging is also going to be possible sometimes. So not just stopping aging, but actually rolling it back to like the age of 18, 21, whatever you feel like.
Yeah.
So yeah. So no, there really are no limits. It's just suddenly my confidence about what I'm doing in the course is much higher than it used to be, because I felt before that my course had this crushing competition of other entities out there, and now I'm realizing that those entities aren't quite as crushing as I thought, and we're teaching things that are more exciting than what they are, you know? So,
Yeah.
so it's really an exciting time to be sort of planning for the future. And now, it seems like you've joined us at a time when we finally realize that the possibilities out there, what we could accomplish, the impact we could have is much greater than we thought. There are things you would probably enjoy if you keep associating with us. Right now, like when we take a trip with a bunch of people going to a meeting, I do all the planning. I buy the tickets, that sort of thing. Okay, but as time goes on, do you really want a guy in his mid-70s, late 70s, and 80s and stuff to be purchasing the tickets? Probably not. It might be nice to have some other younger person doing that stuff. So things that I'm currently doing, I probably don't have to keep doing every single one of them, even if I remain active. Other people could take over some of this stuff, which is not exactly a burden, but you can think about how somebody else might really enjoy it. You know, I mean, if they're going there, they would like to be able to figure out where we're going to stay, you know, which flights we will take, all that sort of thing. That's just a very minor part of the whole thing. And then could we make the course into something that is much more widely appealing than it is now? I think we obviously could. Could there be an associated book? I've tried to write 3 different books. I don't seem to be an ideal book writer, but we've got the draft of 3 books, so I mean, it's something. And yeah, so lots of potential opportunities out there. And yeah, I was just so happy the day that you emailed me. So anyway, who can tell, but I have a feeling that great things will happen here. And so we'll just have to see exactly what those things are, in the long run. Yeah. And this whole thing about separation of work life, personal life, I really don't have any separation. I haven't for a long time. And any famous person that you know, they also don't. If the fame is high enough, you know, satisfying enough, then the fame is fun for your family and so on. Mm-hmm. But that is also something that most people feel strongly about. You know, certain work hours, you're not working after that, and being in the status of working and being in the status of like recreation or fun is entirely different. Whereas with me, it looks the same the whole day. Whatever I'm doing, it's the same thing. I'm obviously enjoying it. It seems to involve, you know, computers and stuff. But it is basically the same the entire day. If you were to watch me, you can't really tell when I'm working and when I'm playing and when I'm doing both at the same time. So, yeah.
Yeah. You're always on.
I guess so.
Right?
Yeah.
And I mean, if that's something that works well for you, I think, you know, that's something that actually has worked well for myself in the past is, I've always heard the advice that you can separate work from your personal life, and you should shut things off once you leave work or once you come to work. Right. But I feel like those things, if you want to avoid that kind of burnout and you want to avoid that kind of, I guess, artificial construct of when things change, you need to start integrating both sides. Because, for example, if I am to be able to invest some of my personal life during the middle of the day, I would need to do some trade-off and maybe let my work life infiltrate my personal time too. And whether or not that works for you is very, very up to the individual.
Right.
And, you know, so far I find that very career-focused professionals, they need to allow for that kind of intermingling to some degree. And if that keeps you going and, you know, keeps them going forward, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think you can think about a job that having intrinsic rewards, that like even if somebody didn't pay you, you'd still want to do that job.
Yeah.
And medicine is sort of like that like when my kids were little, I would come home all excited and they'd say, "Dad, is this about earthquakes again?" And I realized that's really cool that my kids know more about earthquakes because it's something that I'm, intimately involved with this, disaster relief task force. So, and they were able to kind of conceptualize what I do and feel proud of it, rather than just thinking whatever I do, it cannot be understood. It's impossible to understand, And I think a lot of things about medicine, the big picture is really very easy to understand. So it's easy to, convey to your family, it's, and they can feel happy when you're happy about it. It's not just the thing of, is this work time or personal time, or whatever. As you say, it isn't for everyone. Like once a week, somebody will ask me something like what my work hours are, or how long my vacations are, or something like that. And it just turns out that, to me, that makes no sense at all. It isn't the way I think about things. I never think at a particular moment, well, I'm working now, or I'm doing personal stuff now. It just sort of all don't really mean anything to me, because, it's just like saying, well, how much time do you spend on Christmas? Really, like when it's shopping for Christmas, if you measure that. No. Nobody measures that, right? So that's sort of similar. I think it's nice to find something that you so thoroughly enjoy that not only do you not wish to have to shut it off frequently, but your enjoyment of it spreads to other people. So they're happy because you're happy, and success. And it's nice if you're rewarded for success in your career for things that you already enjoy doing. That's kind of and it seems to me that should be the case with every physician. But as you know, there are a lot of unhappy physicians and lawyers and many other high-profile people are in a job that everybody respects, but they're unhappy. They feel they're in a box. They're confined in all sorts of ways that they never intended. But I think some of that is sort of painting yourself into a corner. I think if you decide you're going to be in charge of your own destiny, then you can be. You just keep that idea in mind that even when you're young, you can be in charge of what happens to you, right? And that. Plus the whole thing about when in the day you're working, and as you've already encountered, sometimes it's something that I actually learned in medical school when I was your age. That first year medical school, I sort of learned this sleeping at will thing. That it just suddenly worked. It made sense, so I could sleep whenever I wanted to and then wake up at an appropriate time. And then everything becomes easier about separating various parts of the day, or deciding. If you try to do one thing the whole day, whatever it is, you won't do it very well because you'll get bored, and the tedium of it hits you at some time. Even if it's something that other people consider fun, if you're doing the same thing the whole day. So having such a long list of things that you could do is a wonderful gift, that you wake up and you realize the things that end up on the bottom fall off the bottom. Somebody ends up doing them, and you never had to do them anyway. And the things on the top they're constantly changing. Like, one day you'll decide, well, this is the thing I want to prioritize, and the next day something else. So that is a lot of what gets, endorphins flowing.
Yeah, I think that's kind of also, comes up in your discussion of FOMO, right? Like,
Right.
we only have so much time in our lives to do all the things that we want. Just because I want to spend a lot of time propagating my life's work doesn't mean I don't want to spend time on vacation or
Right.
spend time with my family, right? It's at the current state of human beings, we are,
We can
stuck.
only do one thing at a time.
Yeah, and
Right.
you got to do the things that make you the happiest, which means, it's not because I don't want to do these things, it's because I have something else that I need that
Right.
makes me happier
Right.
than.
So without taking too much of your time and without, distracting you too much from the other things you're trying to do, I think we've been able to provide you with quite a lot of interesting information about both me and the course and the role that you could, potentially play in our future.
I think I echo your sentiment.
Okay.
All right, looking forward to it. Yeah.
Me too. Okay.
Thank you very much,
Okay.
Dr. Solez.
Thank you. Yeah.